The dragons had spaceships, y'all. The heavenly principles could be Kevin, and Ajaw might be the next Pyro Sovereign. You can say what you like about Natlan, but you can't deny that it was teeming with lore about the dragons. So much so that it's time to update the old video I had about the Dragon Sovereigns, and actually go more in depth than anyone else has about Teyvat's original inhabitants and the overarching conflict. Before we're done, you are going to be an expert on dragon lore. From Neuvillette to Nibelung to Xiuacoatl and his nuclear eye. This is the video that will explain it all, so you'd better go get some popcorn, because it's gonna be long. I'm the unlikely Genshin gamer, and it's time to talk about the dragons of Teyvat. I'm also going to answer some of the questions that have been floating around about Natlan, like why is their tech so patchy, and why the Shade of Death is so ready to bargain with them. I want all the new players and people just getting interested in the lore to be able to follow this one while not boring the old vets. So, why not start at the deep beginning? The juicy first chapter that we are only just beginning to understand. And then, if your interest is piqued and you want to find out more, go and check out my other videos. Links to relevant ones are in the description. Everybody set? Okay. Now, if we're going to talk about the dragons, we kind of have to touch on Genshin's overarching plot. Which means then we need to establish who the actual villain is, don't we? This seems to have confused many people, but I'll tell you what. It's not the heavenly principles. At least, not exactly. Humankind don't like them because they are brutal and controlling, but they aren't the actual villains per se. The Abyss, not the Abyss Order, but the all-encompassing darkness itself. The black tide from beyond the sky. That's the big bad. The dragons and the new artifact set have put everything into stark perspective. The Abyss/Black Tide is a devourer of worlds across the universe that everyone is trying to avoid. The Primordial One is a special case who has decided that every means justifies the end of avoiding that inescapable darkness for both him and humanity, and the dragons know this all too well. Teyvat used to be a regular lone world way out at the edge of a galaxy arm, inhabited by dragons and their subjects, and ruled over in its entirety by a dragon king named Nibelung. His character is very likely inspired by the epic poem, The Ring of the Nibelung by Richard Wagner, and the names Alberic and Rheindater are from that story as well. In the drama, the Nibelung are a race of people who live underground, with the infamous Alberic being most notable of them. He is an oppressive king, hence the meaning of his name, ruler of supernatural beings. And when he steals a special stash of gold that gives immense power to whoever owns it and forms it into a ring, then he basically introduces a cursed evil into the world. Alberic Nibelung in the story stole the gold that made this infamous ring from 3 sisters known as the Rheindaughters. It was their collective duty to guard this gold from those who would use its power to take over the world. So, is the Abyss that Rheindater, also known as Gold, was tinkering with, and that Nibelung the dragon brought with him to Teyvat, and that Clothar Alberic formed into an order of deadly warriors, possibly the gold from this story? All these entities who decide to flirt with the Abyss have been actively cursed by it. It sounds a lot like that cursed gold of the Rheindaughters. So the history of Teyvat really starts with a conversation between a mysterious celestial traveler and the mighty dragon Nibelung. A voyager whose sentient will traversed the cosmos once made a vow of reunion with a lord of dragons who had yet to fall into darkness. This passerby was a scribe drifting through the vast void, duty-bound never to commune with primordial civilizations. As her undying body slumbered away within a distant celestial disk construct, her mind had drifted through an empty expanse spanning many light years, charting countless peoples and civilizations fated to perish, pondering the ultimate truths of the cosmos in that eternal darkness. Until a faint glimmer pierced her awareness, jolting the voyager from tenfold millennia of meditation. It came from an unremarkable little world at the edge of the spiral arm, and from the primeval dragon that had been born alongside that world. Though death would one day bring an endless night, and the sun it gazed upon was but a fleeting ember, this will, bound though it was to its planetary crust, shone more brightly than all the civilizations the voyager had ever seen. Unable to suppress the wonder and sorrow welling up within, she delivered a solemn pronouncement unto its ruler. I have seen the lightless end tearing through star clusters like a spindle among silken threads. I have seen how the cold tide of chaos drowns out all songs, so that good and evil alike vanish into silence. And yet, my kind, gentle king, will you still refuse to abandon your people? Forsake this world, fated for ruin, and journey with me beyond the stars. Yet thus did the proud dragon reply. O friend from a distant world, I thank you for imparting these truths from beyond the skies. But though in your eyes they may seem ignorant creatures, to me they are the very meaning of this universe. If the tide of oblivion must come, then let my bones be the bulwark that shields this realm. Bear witness to the path I have chosen, for I shall lead my people onward to the stars. We have heard of these travelers before, at the end of the Fontaine quest in fact, although we didn't know it yet. Thus there are things floating in among the stars, once adorned with countless prestigious titles from innumerable civilizations, shedding tears for their ordained demise. Their tears stream down out of sorrow, out of joy, because both will eventually scatter into the cold, dark, endless void. And this world-devouring darkness has been mentioned in the Traveler's Sword and in Fischl's Nod-Krai. But really, when one is faced with such a final fate, when up against the star-devouring darkness, what weapon would be fitting for one to wield? It can only be a sword. If nothing else, it shall bear the memory of those who face their ends without fear. Every good, bright, and noble thing must eventually fall to inexorable entropic destruction. And the final destination of the universe is the realm in waiting of the Prinzessin, Nod-Krai. This is the fate of all worlds, of the universe, and all who live in it. See the trend? This is the ultimate enemy, the end of everything. But someone else had a very different idea about just how inevitable this force is. This new person had the power to give rise to a brand new era or world. Era Nova, if you will. He also had the mindset that absolutely no means was too drastic to ensure this eternal end. He even encased the whole world in a shell to hide and seal it off from the rest of the universe. A sheltered eternity, a false sky. We can call him Thanes, or the Heavenly Reaver, or Finon, or Kevin Kaslana. Let me explain. It's been clearly stated by the developers at Hoyoverse that the worlds of their games are connected. So half the fun is looking for the connections. Here in Genshin Impact, in the book Before Sun and Moon from Enkanomiya, we learn that the name of the Heavenly Principles, the ruler of the entirety of Teyvat now, is Thanes. The Natlan dragons have now introduced the name Heavenly Reaver. But something interesting about the name Thanes is that it is derived from the name Finon, like Finon in Hoyoverse's other game, Honkai Star Rail. Both words have the root word Phino, which means to shine, or to bring to light, or to appear. And both characters have such a role in their stories. Thanes being the first descender who made a world for humanity is fitting, and Finon in Honkai Star Rail is also fated to inherit the responsibility of creating a new world for humans free of the Black Tide. But Thane's ruthless pursuit of a world completely impervious to the blackness is reminiscent of Finon's base character from Hoyoverse's earlier game, Honkai Impact 3rd, Kevin Kaslana. He's pretty much the sole survivor of an inevitable series of disasters in his world, like a sweeping force always hellbent on ending everything. Sounds like the Abyss, doesn't it? And he became so completely consumed with defeating the Honkai phenomenon, as it was called, that he would do absolutely anything, and I mean anything, to forward his vision. His diabolical form looked like a winged demon. And Winged One is another name for the radical usurper here in the world of Teyvat. All three are almost certainly connected. I'd bet money that the primordial one of Teyvat, who the dragons have now confirmed is responsible for humans' existence in Teyvat, is Genshin's version of Kevin. And his idea of the world left no space for the dragons, even though they were here first. And so, the dragons of Teyvat and the winged usurper from outer space engaged in a devastating war. One side for the right to conquer this world, and the other to live in peace with what was already theirs. Now we go in depth about the dragons, because they've been on the back foot ever since. In fact, when the Voyager from far away came to visit the Dragon King again, he was gone, leaving her very confused. When the Voyager returned once more, the world she remembered had been utterly changed. The bones of the earth had been bound beneath fourfold shackles, and the soft white radiance of the sky had been split into 7 immutable hues. Like drifting smoke had the Lord of Dragons vanished, and the Winged One's throne now ruled the radiance of the 3 moons. The usurper was badly damaged by the fight with Nibelung. So, to stop the rest of dragons from rising up again, and to safeguard his new hard-won world order, Thanes caged the primordial authority of each dragon in a seat in Celestia, created a gnosis to resonate with it using Nibelung's body, and then forced the gods of the world to fight to the death until only 7 remained victorious to claim each caged authority. That's the Archon War. There is only one dragon with his restored authority now, and that's Neuvillette. But what of the others? The dragon sovereigns of Teyvat were very different from one another, reflecting their element. There were other dragons in Teyvat, but these were the most important. The dragon sovereigns we now know of are Apep of Sumeru, Neuvillette, Xiuacoatl, possibly Villian, and yes, very likely Azhdaha. Again, let me explain myself. These are all the reasons that Azhdaha is overwhelmingly clued to being the dragon sovereign of Geo. In fact, I don't really know why we doubted it. Over the long years of his imprisonment, his power has slowly dissipated. He has also become disfigured from the various kinds of erosion he has been subjected to. The faint rattling of this dragon lord's shackles and his deep, angry growl echo through the bowels of the mountains like memories of a bygone era. But, in the end, the union of dragons, gods, and men was perhaps not to be. He's also distinctly older than Zhongli, one of the oldest beings in Teyvat.
I do not pretend to match your rhetoric when it comes to the subject of a life long lived. I fear that the life of an elemental being is longer than any in this world.
His other names are Lord of Vishaps, the same title that Neuvillette has over his Hydro Vishaps, and Dragon King. So, let's just say for now that Azhdaha, who was once as massive as a mountain range, was the Geo Sovereign. Dvalin might be the current Animal Sovereign, since he is a Vishap dragon too, and nothing more is known about the animal dragons. If he's the only one that's left, then he's the de facto sovereign. We don't know what became of the Cryo and Electro sovereigns at all, but there are some clues. Now, I've heard the theory about the Thunderbird in Inazuma being the Electro sovereign, and although we don't have time in this video to go into all the details about why it isn't, I have a few key points. Firstly, it's very unlikely for the Thunderbird to be a dragon when it is so clearly said to be a bird. Every aspect of its story reinforces the concept that it's a bird of Electro. And every dragon we have encountered, which are many by this point, including the human dragon Neuvillette, is alluded to in some way having a draconian nature, whether it be scales, snake-like eyes, lizard-like something, or just being a Vishap. Secondly, if that's really how the Electro dragon was killed, then that was actually exceedingly underwhelming. The story of Kapatcir so strongly has nothing to do with the dragons, or the heavenly principles, or the Great War before the Archon War. Why would the Electro Sovereign have been so removed from everything about the dragon race? And why was she just a selfish bird in the corner of Inazuma who cared nothing for ruling her realm? Also, dragons don't leave the kind of chaotic, angry elemental residues that the slain gods of Teyvat do. You know, the Tatarigimi of Orobashi? But the Thunderbird did. Lastly, a more definitive clue is in Enkanomiya's history. When the Bathysmal Vishaps, which are actually Hydro Vishaps, evolved, they deliberately broadened their evolutionary paths to include aspects of Cryo and Electro Vishaps to preserve those traits. Likely because they were well and truly gone. This is why the new Hydro Dragon had to be born in the form of a human. There were other elements in the bloodline now. Kapatcir was mighty in her own right, and for Raiden, as Kagemusha, to one-shot her like that is a testament to her power. But it's unlikely she was related to the dragons in any way. But since I touched on the subject of Fontaine's dragon, the human-shaped Neuvillette, I need to mention Melusines, and therefore Elinus, since this video is about all the dragons. Because Elinus was a Vishap too. You all know that Elinus was a gargantuan abyss dragon that considered gold his mother. But Elinus is also the father of Melusines, and Neuvillette says that Melusines are kin to his own daughters and a new kind of Hydro Vishap. It's worth noting that Melusines are all females because they are part Oceanids too. Lyris, the Oceanid of the Narcissan Crew's order, is their mother, and Elinus inadvertently became their father during the explosion that killed him and scattered Lyris. A new Oceanid Abyssal Vishap hybrid that Neuvillette is proud to call his successors was born. Which got me thinking, what if Gold was messing with the corpses of the dead dragons when she created her abyssal children, using their DNA as the basis for synthesis? These two gigantic dragons she made, Durin and Elinus could be closer to the sovereigns than you think. And of course, we have Xiuacoatl, the Pyro Sovereign, father of the primal flame, and his brother, the Silver Prince, regent of the kingdom when his elder brother began to lose his mind. Their story is the most interesting so far, and sheds more light on what happened before the Archon War. Xiuacoatl, the red and black sovereign of flame, ended up being affected by the war against Fanes and the Abyss in a different way that led him to make some ridiculously drastic decisions. The Natlan dragons, and maybe some others too, were engaged with trying to research space travel with a dedicated ladder and spaceship in orbit, the Tonatia, before the shell that Mawika accidentally cracked was put in place around the planet, the False Sky. Based on what Ochkon learned during his reign, the Natlan dragons have something to do with destroying the moons that we've been learning about in the Nod-Krai web event. And it seems as though during that war, Natlan's ley lines got burned up. Very likely because of that divine nail protruding into the Night Kingdom. I would hazard a guess that the reason Renova, the Shade of Death, one of Fane's helpers, was so quick to make all these deals with the Natlan people is because that was her nail that smashed up the Natlan ley line network. The Shades helped Fanes in that war, and who's to say they didn't have the ability to throw down those devastating spikes just like him? Natlan's unique condition is probably her fault. If Xbalanque was aware of this, that would explain his confident negotiating position. But, to summarize, the war was pretty bitter on both sides. But because of how powerful Xiuacoatl and the Natlan dragons were, Natlantia remained a haven for the dragons when everyone else was being decimated. At one point, Xiuacoatl was frozen in a sea of lava, which forced him into a coma-like state, but it didn't kill him. But what happened after that is really what began to spell the end for the Natlan dragons. While the war raged on, King Nibelung went looking for an advantage to fight against Fanes, and came back with the Abyss. Remember Nibelung's ring? And that was an infection that the dragons couldn't recover from. No one could. Xiuacoatl woke from his coma state to be severely infected by the Abyss. So much so that he was stricken by raving madness most of the time. And whenever he did gain precious moments of clarity, he realized there was no coming back. Not for him or what was left of his kind. He began to devise a special machine to start over again. Literally. The Sweeping Skyfire. A mechanism rooted in his false eye that was eventually split into the Golden Entreaties. Phlogiston is apparently like a digitizing element. You can give it instructions and it replicates anything. Xiuacoatl intended to do a 2-step cleanse to Natlan, which would eventually spread to all of Teyvat using this property of phlogiston. First, use the Natlan phlogistonization array to copy every single aspect of the existing nation and digitize it, completely deleting the original. Then, when phlogistonized Natlan encountered the Abyss, mutual annihilation of everything was programmed into it. Complete factory reset. It seems with the power of the Pyro Authority, Xiuacoatl would have been able to anchor reality to recreate it afterwards too, like a bare bones backup file. But it isn't made perfectly clear, and no one liked this idea regardless. When he told his brother, Kukulkan, also known as the Sage of the Stolen Flame, he did not agree in the slightest. Instead, he, just like in the story of Prometheus, decided to do something treasonous. Literally, just like the myth, he stole the knowledge of fire from the gods, i.e. the dragons, and taught it to humanity. Anything was better than what Xiuacoatl was proposing. And these little creatures intrigued him anyway. But really, giving phlogiston to humans? The dragons tried to punish him dearly for this act. In fact, the Council of Dragon Lords was ready to execute him for it, even though he was regent while the Pyro Sovereign battled with his illness. But in the midst of the trial, Big Brother Xiuacoatl made an appearance and shut everyone up. They had to let him continue. And radical experiments ensued. The sage created his beloved son, Ochkon, a human-dragon hybrid, hoping to better understand humanity's role in the ley lines, and have him take over as sovereign, ruling both humans and dragons. Or eventually activate his brother's doomsday device if necessary. But apparently, blending humans and dragons doesn't work well. Ochkon went mad, abhorring everything about the dangerous dragons who had shunned him. However, when Xiuacoatl, the human who had slowly been garnering the dragon's reluctant respect because of his battle prowess and ingenuity, actually killed Xiuacoatl and rose from the dead as Archon, Kukulkan dared hope that his plans to eradicate the abyss through the humans was within his grasp. He befriended Xiuacoatl, had him promise to always keep the sweeping Skyfire as a backup among his people, and preserve the golden entreaty he was entrusted with. Then he spoon-fed humankind bits of high-end dragon tech to aid in their civilization, so they could hurry up and become an empire that could challenge the abyss. But, alas, it was taking them far, far too long. They were still too divided, too reliant on the heavenly principles and their Archon, and he didn't have that much time left. You see, after also uploading his consciousness into the phlogiston database left in the sacred city, Kukulkan was no longer able to really interact with the world, except influencing the minds of men to do his bidding. Like a hyper-realistic hologram. If you think of it, all the people he impersonated, who we encountered in these quests, didn't do anything. They just talked. That means once he realized that the Skyfire may actually have to happen, before all the energy needed to activate it dissipated, he had to set a new plan in motion. Therein lies the importance of the Little Tepetlisaur. A saurian that bears the mark of the Pyro Sovereign can evolve to become mighty and powerful again if guided. But more importantly, they are also the only ones able to activate the phlogistonization array. So, the sage needed one to come to the volcano and do it for him. So, a rumor about a quest to bring such a saurian to the mountain to be cured gets spread around through the ages. Along with the rumor that if the gem on the Tonatia, which is really a golden entreaty, in Natlan is retrieved, the abyss could go away. All lies to get human hands to facilitate a gifted saurian's return to the mountain. Can't argue that it didn't work. Many had to die first, but eventually we make it there. Didn't turn out to be much of a solution though. What's the point in destroying yourself completely to destroy your foe? It's like jumping off of a cliff before you're pushed. Yes, the abyss pretty gruesomely distorts its victims, but the end results aren't super different. And in the end of it all, Kukulkan, the wise silver dragon, came to the same conclusion anyway. Although he grew to share his brother's great despair over the degradation of their race, he never really did agree on that desperate plan to start over. Having used up all the saved energy in the sad sacred city to turn on everything and fire up the device, only for the plan not to work, he was pretty much done. The very last of the intelligent dragons of Natlantia finally faded away into memory. No, not even memory. because only the Saurian buddy knew, and his memories have faded too. All of Natlan's dragons are now gone. Except Ajaw. Almost all the 13 dragon lords and 3 princes who had reigned over sections of Natlan way back in the day have died, including Ishlel in Ochka Natlan, but not Ajaw. The documents in the Dragon's Chamber of Deliberation implies that one of the dragon lords, number 10, was caught and trapped in a mountain after being tricked into thinking he was dealing with the second lord. On the other hand, one of the Natlan weapons describes 2 twins who successfully tricked a mighty dragon into drinking an elixir that robbed him of his powers and then trapped him in a mountain. The last clue is that Ajaw was found in a mountain, imprisoned in that wrist device, and he very much claims to be a dragon lord, with a name we've heard from one. They've got to be the same. Now, he is rather impatiently waiting to take over Kenichi's body to do who knows what. I wonder if he knows that he is truly the last of his kind. Natlan may be in trouble if he ever succeeds in his plans. So anyway, if you've made it to the end of this super long one, you deserve a gold star for participation. You get an even bigger one if you comment down below with your thoughts and forward a discussion into the dragons, Thanes, the Abyss, maybe even the Flame Reaver. Either way, I appreciate you and I hope you learned something. This one was a bit hard to put together because of all the info scattered around, which is why it took so long. But that is what makes it intriguing. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, share, or maybe even consider becoming a member of the channel so I can keep doing this. And I'll see you in the next one.